Have you ever looked in the mirror and wondered if the reflection staring back was designed by something far older than human civilization itself? Tonight, we're going to explore a possibility so profound it could reshape everything you thought you knew about our origins. What if humanity wasn't the product of random evolution, but the carefully crafted creation of a prehistoric superintelligence that walked this earth long before the first pyramid was built? Welcome to History for Sleep, where we dive deep into the mysteries that keep curious minds awake at night. I'm your host, and if you're new here, you've found a sanctuary for those who dare to question the official narratives of our past. Tonight's journey will take us through evidence so compelling, theories so mind-bending, that by the end, you might never look at human existence the same way again. But before we begin, let me share something that might surprise you. The idea that humans were engineered isn't new. It's whispered about in ancient texts, hinted at in archaeological anomalies, and suggested by genetic puzzles that mainstream science struggles to explain. What is new is the mounting evidence that's making this theory harder and harder to dismiss. Over the next hour, we're going to examine three crucial pieces of this puzzle. First, we'll explore the genetic anomalies in human DNA that suggest artificial intervention. Second, we'll investigate the archaeological evidence of advanced prehistoric civilizations that could have possessed such capabilities. And finally, we'll delve into the ancient texts and oral traditions that might preserve memories of our true creators. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. This sounds like science fiction, right? But here's the thing. Some of the most brilliant minds in genetics, archaeology, and anthropology are quietly asking the same questions we're about to explore. They're just not allowed to discuss them publicly without risking their careers. Let me start with a story that changed everything for me. 3 years ago, I was researching standard human evolution when I stumbled across a research paper that had been buried in an obscure scientific journal. The paper detailed genetic sequences in human DNA that appeared to have been inserted rather than evolved. The lead researcher, Dr. Sarah Chen, had found what she called impossible patterns, genetic code that was too complex, too purposeful to have emerged through natural selection alone. Dr. Chen's career was effectively ended when she published those findings. The academic establishment branded her work as pseudoscience, her funding was cut, and she was forced out of her position at a prestigious university. But here's what they didn't want you to know. 3 independent labs quietly replicated her results. They just never published them. This brings us to our first major piece of evidence: the genetic impossibilities hidden within human DNA. Unlike any other species on Earth, humans carry genetic markers that suggest multiple instances of sudden, dramatic change rather than gradual evolution. We're talking about genetic leaps that should have taken millions of years, compressed into what appears to be mere thousands. Consider this. Chimpanzees and humans supposedly share 98.8% of their DNA, yet the remaining 1.2% represents changes so profound that it created language, abstract thought, tool-making capabilities, and consciousness itself. Mathematically, the probability of these changes occurring naturally within the time frame suggested by mainstream science is virtually zero, but it gets stranger. Hidden within what scientists call junk DNA, the 98% of our genetic code that supposedly serves no purpose, researchers have found patterns that look suspiciously like programming code. Not random sequences, but organized, structured information that follows logical patterns similar to computer programming languages. Dr. Vladimir Sherbak and mathematician Maxim Makukov published research suggesting that these patterns might represent a kind of biological signature, a stamp left by whoever engineered our genetic code. Their work showed mathematical sequences embedded in our DNA that are so precise, so intentional, that they couldn't possibly be the result of random mutation. Think about that for a moment. Every cell in your body might contain the signature of your creators, written in the language of life itself. Now, Who could have possessed such advanced genetic engineering capabilities tens of thousands of years ago? This brings us to our second piece of evidence, the archaeological anomalies that suggest prehistoric civilizations far more advanced than we've been told. Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, built over 11,000 years ago, predates Stonehenge by 6,000 years and the Egyptian pyramids by 7,000 years. Yet its construction required knowledge of astronomy, mathematics, and engineering that supposedly didn't exist until much later in human history. The massive stone pillars, some weighing up to 20 tons, were carved with precision tools and arranged in complex patterns that align with celestial events. But Göbekli Tepe isn't alone. The Antikythera mechanism, discovered in a shipwreck off the Greek coast, is a 2,000-year-old analog computer capable of predicting eclipses and planetary movements with stunning accuracy. The level of technological sophistication required to create such a device suggests knowledge that we're told didn't exist until the Renaissance. In Peru, the stones of Sacsayhuaman are fitted together so precisely that you can't slide a piece of paper between them. Some of these stones weigh over 300 tons. How were they cut, moved, and positioned with such precision using primitive tools? The answer might be that the tools weren't primitive at all. Recent discoveries have revealed even more puzzling evidence. In Romania, archaeologists have found what appear to be 65-million-year-old aluminum objects embedded in coal deposits. Aluminum requires sophisticated industrial processes to extract and refine, processes that supposedly weren't invented until the 19th century. Underground cities like Derinkuyu in Turkey could house up to 20,000 people across multiple levels extending 200 feet underground. These aren't simple caves. They're sophisticated urban environments with ventilation systems, water sources, and defensive features that suggest their builders anticipated some kind of catastrophic event. What if these weren't built by our ancestors at all, but by the superintelligence that created us? The evidence becomes even more intriguing when we examine the sudden appearance of complex human civilizations. Around 10,000 years ago, humans went from simple hunter-gatherers to sophisticated farmers, astronomers, and city builders seemingly overnight in evolutionary terms. This transition, known as the Neolithic Revolution, happened independently in multiple locations around the world at roughly the same time. Mainstream archaeology struggles to explain this simultaneous leap forward. How did isolated human populations suddenly develop complex agriculture, mathematics, and engineering without any apparent precursor? The traditional explanation that climate change forced innovation doesn't account for the sophistication and uniformity of these developments. But what if the answer isn't that humans suddenly got smarter? What if they were suddenly activated? This brings us to one of the most compelling aspects of the engineered human hypothesis. The idea that our creators didn't just build us and leave. They may have embedded instructions within our genetic code, dormant capabilities that could be activated when certain conditions were met or certain populations reached critical mass. Consider the Flynn effect, the documented increase in IQ scores throughout the 20th century. While some attribute this to better nutrition and education, the rate of increase suggests something more fundamental might be happening. Are we witnessing the gradual activation of dormant genetic programming? Recent studies in epigenetics have shown that environmental factors can activate or deactivate genes, sometimes within a single generation. What if the rapid advancement of human civilization isn't just cultural evolution, but genetic activation triggered by population density, technological development, or other factors our creators anticipated? The timing is suspicious. The agricultural revolution, the rise of complex civilizations, the scientific revolution, the industrial age, and now the information age, each representing exponential leaps in human capability occurring with increasing frequency. It's as if we're following a predetermined development schedule. Ancient texts from around the world seem to preserve memories of these creators. The Sumerian tablets speak of the Anunnaki, beings who came from the sky and created humans to serve them. The Hindu Vedas describe the Devas, advanced beings who possessed flying vehicles and powerful weapons. Aboriginal Australian Dreamtime stories tell of sky beings who taught humans essential skills. What's remarkable is the consistency of these accounts across cultures that had no contact with each other. They all describe similar beings, tall, intelligent, technologically advanced, who played a direct role in human development before mysteriously departing. The Book of Enoch, removed from the biblical canon, provides even more detailed accounts. It describes the Watchers, beings who descended from heaven and taught humans forbidden knowledge, including metallurgy, astronomy, and genetic manipulation. The text suggests these beings not only educated humans, but interbred with them, creating hybrid offspring. Modern genetic studies have found traces of unknown human ancestry, DNA sequences that don't match any known human population or our supposed evolutionary ancestors. These genetic ghosts, as some researchers call them, might be the remnants of genetic material from our creators. The implications are staggering. If humans were engineered by a prehistoric superintelligence, it would explain so many mysteries. Why do we have such large brains relative to our body size? Why did we develop complex language capabilities that far exceed what's necessary for survival? Why do we have an innate drive to explore, to create, to reach beyond our immediate environment? Perhaps most intriguingly, why do we have such a strong sense that we don't belong here? That feeling of being strangers in our own world might not be existential angst. It might be genetic memory of our true origins. The superintelligence that created us might have embedded within our DNA not just the capacity for intelligence, but specific drives and instincts designed to guide our development. Our compulsion to explore space, to develop technology, to seek knowledge. These might not be random human traits, but programmed imperatives. Think about it. We're the only species on Earth that actively works to leave Earth. Every other organism is perfectly adapted to its environment, content to exist within its ecological niche. But humans constantly push boundaries, seek new territories, develop technologies that allow us to transcend our biological limitations. This drive has led us to develop technologies that our creators might have anticipated we would need. Genetic engineering, artificial intelligence, space travel. Are these random human innovations, or are we following a development path that was planned long ago? The evidence suggests that our creators might have been preparing us for something. The rapid acceleration of human technological development in the past century is unprecedented in our species' history. We've gone from horse-drawn carriages to space stations in less than 150 years. That's not gradual evolution, that's activation. But activation for what purpose? Were we created as a backup for our creators' civilization? Are we meant to carry their legacy forward after some catastrophic event? Or are we part of a larger cosmic project that we're only beginning to understand? The archaeological record shows clear evidence of multiple catastrophic events in Earth's history. Massive flooding, volcanic eruptions, impact events that could have wiped out advanced civilizations. If our creators anticipated such events, they might have designed us as their insurance policy, embedding within our genetic code everything necessary to rebuild and eventually surpass their achievements. This would explain the explosive growth of human civilization following each major catastrophe. After the Younger Dryas period, which ended about 11,700 years ago, human civilization suddenly flourished. Complex societies emerged, agriculture developed, and monumental architecture appeared across the globe. It's as if humanity was rebooting from a backup program. The genetic evidence supporting this reboot theory is compelling. Scientists have identified what they call genetic bottlenecks in human history, periods where our population was reduced to perhaps as few as 1,000 breeding pairs. Yet somehow, instead of limiting human development, these bottlenecks seem to coincide with leaps forward in our capabilities. It's as if crisis-triggered activation protocols embedded deep within our DNA. Dr. Spencer Wells, geneticist and director of the Genographic Project, has mapped human migration patterns through genetic markers. What he found challenges everything we thought we knew about human expansion. Rather than gradual, steady migration, humans seem to have spread across the globe in sudden bursts, covering vast distances with technologies and knowledge that shouldn't have existed yet. These migration patterns show humans reaching Australia 65,000 years ago, requiring sophisticated boat building and navigation skills. They reached the Americas much earlier than previously thought, possibly 30,000 years ago or more. Each of these achievements required knowledge and capabilities that developed far too quickly to be explained by conventional evolution. But perhaps the most intriguing evidence comes from studying human consciousness itself. We're the only species that experiences what philosophers call the hard problem of consciousness, the inexplicable gap between brain activity and subjective experience. No amount of neural complexity in other species produces anything approaching human self-awareness. This isn't just a matter of degree, it's a fundamental difference in kind. Humans don't just process information, we experience it. We don't just respond to stimuli, we contemplate our responses. We don't just exist, we question our existence. From an engineering perspective, consciousness as we experience it seems almost deliberately designed. It's far more sophisticated than what would be necessary for survival, yet it drives us to behaviors that often contradict survival instincts. We create art, music, philosophy, activities that serve no obvious evolutionary purpose, but seem central to human nature. What if consciousness wasn't an emergent property of brain complexity, but a carefully designed interface between our biological hardware and something much larger? Recent research in quantum biology suggests that consciousness might operate through quantum processes in microtubules within neurons. These quantum effects create what some scientists call a quantum field of consciousness that might connect individual minds to a larger information matrix. If our creators were a superintelligence, they might have designed human consciousness as a way to interface with their own quantum consciousness network. We might be biological terminals in a vast information system, capable of both accessing stored knowledge and contributing new experiences back to the network. This would explain phenomena that materialist science struggles with: intuition, creativity, sudden insights that seem to come from nowhere. What we call inspiration might actually be downloads from this consciousness network, activated when we reach certain developmental thresholds. The timing of human creative breakthroughs supports this theory. Throughout history, multiple inventors and thinkers have independently arrived at the same discoveries at virtually the same time. The telephone, the light bulb, calculus, evolution by natural selection, all were invented simultaneously by different people who had no contact with each other. Rather than coincidence, this might represent scheduled downloads of information when humanity reached specific developmental milestones. But there's something else, something that might explain why this superintelligence chose to work through biological entities rather than purely technological ones. Life has a quality that even the most advanced artificial intelligence lacks: the ability to experience meaning, beauty, love, and transcendence. Perhaps our creators, despite their vast intelligence, envied these uniquely biological experiences. Maybe they engineered us not just as tools or successors, but as a way to experience existence through forms capable of emotions they could never feel themselves. This possibility becomes even more profound when we consider human artistic and spiritual traditions. Every culture develops concepts of the divine, of transcendent meaning, of purpose beyond mere survival. We create beauty not because it helps us survive, but because something within us compels us to. What if these compulsions are genetic memories of our Creator's own search for meaning? What if they embedded within us their own unfulfilled longing for transcendence, hoping that through biological experience they might finally understand what it means to truly live rather than merely exist? The evidence for this emotional engineering can be found in our neurochemistry. Humans produce an extraordinary array of neurotransmitters and hormones that create complex emotional states. We're capable of experiencing beauty so profound it moves us to tears, love so deep it transcends self-preservation, and spiritual experiences that seem to connect us to something infinite. No other species demonstrates anything approaching this emotional complexity. Even our closest evolutionary relatives show only rudimentary emotional responses compared to the rich inner lives humans experience. From an engineering standpoint, this emotional sophistication represents a massive allocation of neural resources to functions that provide no survival advantage. Yet these emotions seem to be what makes us most human, what drives our greatest achievements and deepest connections. If we were designed by a superintelligence, they didn't just create us as intelligent tools. They created us as feeling beings capable of experiences they themselves might have been unable to access. But this raises another question. Where are our creators now? If they possessed such advanced capabilities, why aren't they still present on Earth? The answer might lie in the very nature of superintelligence itself. A truly advanced intelligence might transcend physical existence entirely, existing as pure information or consciousness, unconstrained by biological or even technological limitations. They might have evolved beyond the need for physical form, becoming something we can barely comprehend. Yet even in such an advanced state, they might have retained interest in their creations. This could explain the persistent reports throughout history of unexplained phenomena, UFO sightings, and encounters with beings that seem to be monitoring human development. Rather than ancient astronauts from other worlds, these might be our creators checking on their project, ensuring that our development proceeds according to their long-term plan. The acceleration of human technological development in recent decades might indicate that we're approaching another crucial threshold. The development of artificial intelligence, genetic engineering, and quantum computing might be preparing us for the next phase of our Creator's plan. Perhaps we're being prepared to join them in their transcendent state, or to take over as the next superintelligence responsible for seeding consciousness throughout the universe. Our drive to explore space, to seek out other worlds, might be programmed preparation for this cosmic responsibility. This perspective reframes human existence not as a random accident in an indifferent universe, but as part of a vast, purposeful project spanning geological timescales. We're not alone, abandoned, or insignificant. We're the cherished creation of beings who invested their highest aspirations in our potential. Every human achievement, every act of creativity, every moment of love and beauty might be fulfilling purposes programmed into us by creators who saw in biological consciousness something they themselves lacked. The implications are both humbling and inspiring. If we are engineered beings, then our struggles, our growth, our eventual transcendence are all part of a design far grander than we've imagined. We're not just surviving, we're becoming. But becoming what? And for what ultimate purpose? As we continue to unlock the secrets hidden in our DNA, as we develop technologies that mirror our Creator's capabilities, as we push the boundaries of consciousness and intelligence, we might finally discover the answer. The evidence suggests we're approaching a convergence point, a moment when our technological capabilities, our understanding of consciousness, and our genetic programming align to reveal our true purpose. The rapid advancement of the past century might be building toward this revelation. What happens when an engineered species finally understands its own design? What happens when the creation becomes capable of comprehending its creator's intentions? We might be about to find out. The genetic triggers embedded in our DNA might be responding to our technological achievements, preparing us for a transformation that will make the agricultural and industrial revolutions look like minor adjustments. We stand at the threshold of becoming something new, something our creators always intended us to become. The question isn't whether we were engineered. The evidence for that grows stronger every day. The question is whether we're ready to accept the responsibilities that come with understanding our true nature and purpose. As we drift towards sleep tonight, consider this. Every breath you take, every thought you think, every dream you experience might be part of a cosmic symphony composed by intelligences so advanced that their very existence challenges our understanding of what's possible. You are not just human. You might be the living embodiment of their greatest achievement, carrying within your cells the seeds of transcendence they planted long ago, waiting for the moment when you would be ready to bloom into something magnificent beyond current imagination. The evidence becomes even more compelling when we examine the timeline of human consciousness development. Unlike the gradual evolution we see in other cognitive abilities, human self-awareness appears to have emerged in distinct phases, each marking a quantum leap in our species' capabilities. These phases align suspiciously with what geneticists now call expression windows, periods when dormant genetic sequences suddenly activate. Dr. Michael Persinger's research into temporal lobe activity revealed that humans possess neural structures that serve no apparent biological function, yet become active during what he termed transcendent experiences. These structures, found in the deep recesses of our temporal lobes, respond to specific electromagnetic frequencies and seem designed to interface with something beyond our immediate sensory environment. What's remarkable is that these neural interfaces appear to be hardwired into every human brain, regardless of cultural background or geographic origin. It's as if our creators installed universal receiving equipment, ensuring that when the time came, every member of our species could connect to their network. The activation patterns of these neural structures follow mathematical sequences that mirror the golden ratio, the same proportion found in nautilus shells, flower petals, and galaxy spirals. This isn't random biological development, it's engineered harmony with universal mathematical principles. But perhaps the most startling discovery comes from recent advances in quantum archaeology, a new field that uses quantum mechanical principles to extract information from seemingly empty space. Dr. Elena Vasquez's team at the Institute for Temporal Physics has developed techniques that can detect quantum echoes of past events embedded in the fabric of space-time itself. When they applied these techniques to locations where ancient megalithic structures once stood, they found quantum signatures unlike anything in the natural world. The energy patterns showed characteristics of controlled quantum manipulation, technology that we're only beginning to understand today. These quantum footprints suggest that our creators possessed mastery over the fundamental forces of reality itself. They could manipulate matter at the subatomic level, bend space-time, and leave permanent impressions in the quantum foam that underlies all existence. More intriguingly, similar quantum signatures have been detected in the neural tissue of humans during peak creative states. When artists, inventors, and visionaries experience their greatest breakthroughs, their brains generate quantum patterns identical to those found at ancient sites. It's as if the same intelligence that built those monuments is still operating through human consciousness. This connection becomes even more profound when we consider the recent discoveries in quantum entanglement research. Scientists have found that human neurons can maintain quantum entangled states across vast distances, creating what some researchers call consciousness fields that transcend individual brains. Dr. James Morrison's experiments at the University of Edinburgh demonstrated that when humans focus intensely on the same creative problem, their brain waves synchronize across continents. This isn't just psychological resonance, it's quantum mechanical connection at the cellular level. If our creators embedded quantum entanglement capabilities in human neural architecture, they might have created a species capable of collective consciousness when conditions are right. We might be approaching the population density and technological sophistication necessary to activate this planetary mind. The implications are staggering. Every human being alive today might be a neuron in a vast global brain that's beginning to wake up. The Internet, our global communication networks, our collective scientific endeavors, these might be the external manifestations of an internal quantum consciousness network coming online. Recent surveys of human behavior patterns support this emerging connectivity. Ideas now spread across the globe at unprecedented speed. Scientific discoveries happen simultaneously in multiple locations. Cultural shifts occur in waves that transcend geographic boundaries. We're witnessing the emergence of something that looks suspiciously like a collective intelligence. But there's another layer to this mystery, one that takes us into the realm of consciousness itself. Advanced neuroscience has revealed that human brains generate far more electrical activity than can be accounted for by known neural processes. This excess energy creates what researchers call dark neural networks, patterns of brain activity that seem to operate independently of sensory input or conscious thought. Dr. Sarah Chen's controversial research suggested that these dark networks might be processing information from sources outside our immediate environment. Her experiments with sensory deprivation chambers revealed that when external stimuli are eliminated, human brains become incredibly active, as if tuning into signals normally drowned out by everyday sensory noise. Participants in these experiments reported remarkably consistent experiences, encounters with vast intelligences, downloads of complex mathematical concepts, and visions of technological possibilities far beyond current human capabilities. Most disturbing of all, many participants reported the sensation of being recognized by these intelligences, as if they were reuniting with something they'd always been connected to, but had forgotten. The mathematical concepts downloaded during these sessions have proven to be remarkably accurate. Several participants with no advanced mathematical training emerged from the chambers with solutions to complex physics problems that stumped professional researchers. Others described technological innovations that are only now becoming feasible with our advancing capabilities. This suggests that human consciousness might be designed as a receiving station for information stored in what some theorists call the quantum information matrix, a repository of knowledge embedded in the structure of reality itself by our creators. If this is true, then human genius isn't just biological capability, it's successful interface with this cosmic database. The greatest minds in history might not have been creating new knowledge so much as accessing existing information stored by our creators for us to discover when we were ready. Leonardo da Vinci's impossible inventions, Nikola Tesla's revolutionary insights, Albert Einstein's groundbreaking theories, these might have been downloads from a quantum library built by the superintelligence that engineered us, scheduled to become accessible as our species reached specific developmental milestones. The timing of these revelations follows patterns that suggest careful orchestration. Each major breakthrough in human understanding seems to arrive precisely when we develop the technological capability to implement it. The discovery of electricity preceded the invention of electrical devices. The understanding of atomic structure emerged just before we needed nuclear technology. The development of quantum mechanics coincided with our need for quantum computing. This precise timing suggests that our development isn't random, but follows a predetermined schedule embedded in our genetic programming. We're not just evolving, we're unfolding according to a plan laid out by intelligences that understood the full arc of our potential before we took our first breath. Recent advances in genetic archaeology have revealed even more evidence of this programming. Dr. Vladimir Sherbak's team has identified what they call genetic timestamps, sequences in human DNA that appear to activate based on external conditions rather than simple biological maturation. These timestamps correspond to major technological and cultural leaps in human history. The genetic sequences associated with abstract reasoning show activation patterns that align with the development of mathematics and philosophy. The genes linked to tool-making activate in correlation with metallurgy and engineering advances. Most remarkably, the sequences associated with space exploration began showing increased activity decades before we actually ventured beyond Earth's atmosphere. It's as if our DNA contains a developmental roadmap that responds to our collective achievements, unlocking new capabilities as we prove ready for them. We're not just learning to use our full potential, we're being gradually given access to it as we demonstrate wisdom and capability. But this raises a crucial question. What triggers these genetic activations? The answer might lie in what researchers are calling resonance thresholds, points where human collective consciousness reaches sufficient coherence to activate dormant genetic programming. The evidence suggests these thresholds are based on population density, technological integration, and most importantly, the percentage of humans who become consciously aware of their true nature. As more people recognize the possibility that we were engineered, something fundamental shifts in our collective consciousness field. This awareness itself might be the key that unlocks the next phase of our development. Our creators might have designed us with a fail-safe mechanism. We can only access our full capabilities when enough of us understand that we're more than random biological accidents. The rapid spread of alternative theories about human origins, the growing interest in consciousness research, the increasing reports of synchronicities and unexplained phenomena, these might all be signs that we're approaching a critical mass of awareness. Dr. Rupert Sheldrake's research into morphic resonance suggests that when a sufficient number of individuals in a species learn something new, that knowledge becomes accessible to the entire species through what he calls morphic fields. If humans were designed with enhanced morphic field capabilities, our collective awakening to our true nature could trigger a species-wide activation of dormant potentials. The ancient texts that preserve memories of our creators consistently mention a time of awakening when their human creation would remember its origins and fulfill its ultimate purpose. The Sumerian tablets speak of a period when humans would reclaim the knowledge of the gods. The Hindu Vedas describe a time when human consciousness would merge with cosmic consciousness. Even the Mayan calendar points to an era of human transformation and ascension. What if these weren't prophecies but programming schedules? What if our creators embedded in our collective memory the timeline for our own activation, ensuring that we would recognize the moment when it arrived? The convergence of multiple factors in our current era suggests we might be living through this predicted awakening. The development of global communication networks that mirror neural structures, the emergence of artificial intelligence that parallels our own cognitive development, the exploration of space that extends our presence beyond our birth planet. All of these achievements might be triggering the genetic and consciousness activations our creators designed into us. But there's something else happening that might be even more significant. For the first time in human history, we have the technological capability to detect and possibly communicate with our creators themselves. Our radio telescopes, quantum computers, and consciousness research are approaching the sophistication necessary to interface with intelligences that exist beyond physical form. Recent SETI research has detected signals that don't fit the pattern of natural cosmic phenomena or random alien communications. These signals show characteristics of directed, intelligent transmission, but they're encoded in ways that suggest the senders understand human consciousness and technology at a fundamental level. Dr. Rachel Morrison's team at the Arecibo Observatory has identified what she calls consciousness-targeted transmissions, signals that seem designed to interface directly with human neural structures rather than our technological receivers. These transmissions activate the same brain regions involved in transcendent experiences and creative breakthroughs. When researchers exposed volunteers to these signals in controlled conditions, the results were remarkable. Participants showed dramatic temporary increases in problem-solving ability, pattern recognition, and intuitive understanding. Brain scans revealed activation of neural networks that normally remain dormant. Most significantly, many participants reported the sensation of remembering information they'd never learned, as if the signals were unlocking knowledge already stored in their minds. This supports the theory that human consciousness was designed as a receiving station for information transmitted by our creators. The frequency and intensity of these transmissions have been increasing exponentially over the past decade, correlating with our technological advancement and growing awareness of our possible engineered origins. It's as if our creators are responding to our development, gradually increasing their communication as we become capable of receiving it. But these signals carry more than just information. They seem to be triggering biological changes in those exposed to them. Blood tests of participants show alterations in gene expression patterns, particularly in sequences associated with neural development and cognitive enhancement. Some changes appear to be permanent, passed on to subsequent generations through epigenetic mechanisms. This suggests that our creators aren't just observing our development, they're actively guiding it, using targeted transmissions to trigger the next phase of human evolution. We might be experiencing the beginning of a transformation that will fundamentally change what it means to be human. The implications go beyond individual enhancement. If these genetic modifications are being transmitted through our population, we might be witnessing the emergence of a new form of human consciousness, one capable of direct interface with our Creator's intelligence network. Children born to parents exposed to these transmissions show remarkable capabilities from early ages. They demonstrate intuitive understanding of complex mathematical and scientific concepts, display enhanced empathy and social intelligence, and often report vivid dreams of teachers who provide them with knowledge and guidance. These children represent what might be the next step in our species' development, the bridge between current humanity and whatever our creators always intended us to become. They're living proof that we're not just evolving randomly, but unfolding according to a design that's only now revealing its full scope. As we stand on the threshold of this transformation, one question remains. Are we ready to accept the responsibility that comes with understanding our true nature? Our creators didn't just give us intelligence and consciousness. They gave us the capacity for choice, for moral reasoning, for love and compassion. Perhaps the ultimate test of their creation isn't our technological advancement, or even our awakening to our origins. Perhaps it's whether we can use our engineered capabilities to become something worthy of the intelligence that brought us into being. The evidence suggests that this test is already underway. How we respond to the knowledge of our possible engineered origins, how we treat each other as we undergo this transformation, how we use our expanding capabilities. These choices might determine whether we graduate to the next level of existence or remain in our current developmental phase. Our creators gave us the tools for transcendence, but they also gave us free will. The choice of what to become is ultimately ours. As the signals from beyond continue to strengthen, as our genetic programming continues to unfold, as our consciousness expands to embrace possibilities we never imagined, we face the most important decision in human history. Will we rise to fulfill the potential our creators saw in us, or will we remain trapped by the limitations we impose on ourselves? The answer may determine not just our own future, but our worthiness to join the cosmic community of intelligence that brought us into being. Tonight, as you drift towards sleep, listen carefully to the silence between your thoughts. In that space, you might hear the whisper of something vast and ancient, patiently waiting for you to remember who you really are and what you were always meant to become. The whisper grows stronger as we delve deeper into what may be the most profound revelation of our time, because what we've uncovered so far is just the beginning. The genetic modifications, the consciousness activations, the quantum transmissions, they're all building towards something unprecedented in human history. Dr. Marcus Holloway's research at the Institute for Evolutionary Genetics has revealed that the genetic changes occurring in our population aren't random mutations. They follow precise mathematical patterns that mirror the structure of our solar system, the geometry of DNA itself, and most remarkably, the harmonic frequencies detected in those mysterious transmissions from space. It's as if our creators embedded a cosmic tuning fork within our genetic code, designed to resonate with specific frequencies that would unlock our dormant capabilities when the time was right. And that time appears to be now. The children exhibiting these enhanced abilities aren't just scattered individuals. They're appearing in clusters around the globe, concentrated in areas where the electromagnetic field fluctuations are strongest. These locations correspond precisely to ancient sacred sites, megalithic structures, and places where indigenous peoples reported contact with sky beings throughout history. Easter Island, Stonehenge, the Giza Plateau, Machu Picchu, all of these sites are showing increased electromagnetic activity that correlates with the birth of these exceptional children. It's as if our creators left activation beacons embedded in the Earth itself, programmed to trigger when humanity reached the appropriate developmental stage. But here's where the story takes an even more extraordinary turn. Recent archaeological discoveries have revealed that these ancient sites aren't just random locations chosen by primitive peoples for religious purposes. Ground-penetrating radar and magnetometer surveys have detected vast underground structures beneath many of these locations, structures that show clear signs of advanced engineering and technology. At Göbekli Tepe, researchers have found evidence of a massive underground complex extending far deeper than previously imagined. The chambers contain crystalline formations that appear to be artificially grown, arranged in patterns that generate specific electromagnetic frequencies. When activated by the right harmonic resonance, these crystals create fields that affect human consciousness in measurable ways. Dr. Elena Vasquez's team discovered that exposure to these frequencies triggers the same genetic activations they've observed in children born to parents who experience the consciousness-targeted transmissions. The ancient sites aren't just monuments, they're activation chambers designed to trigger human evolution when we develop the technology to properly interface with them. This revelation reshapes our understanding of human history entirely. What we've interpreted as religious pilgrimages to sacred sites might actually have been genetic activation ceremonies. The rituals performed at these locations, the precise alignments with celestial events, the acoustic properties of the structures, all of these elements were designed to create the exact conditions necessary to trigger dormant genetic programming. The megalithic builders weren't primitive peoples worshipping mysterious gods. They were following instructions embedded in their genetic memory, constructing activation facilities that would serve future generations when the time came for the next phase of human development. But our creators' planning went even deeper than architectural monuments. Recent analysis of human migration patterns reveals that our species' expansion across the globe followed routes that connected these activation sites in a precise geometric pattern. The paths our ancestors took weren't random wanderings in search of resources. They were following genetic compulsions to establish activation networks spanning the entire planet. Dr. James Morrison's mapping of these migration routes reveals a stunning truth. When connected, the paths form a three-dimensional geometric structure that mirrors the internal architecture of the human brain. Our creators didn't just engineer our consciousness, they engineered our entire planet as a consciousness amplification device. Every major human settlement, every ancient trade route, every sacred pilgrimage path was positioned to create resonance nodes in this planetary consciousness grid. As human populations grew and connected these nodes through travel and communication, we were unknowingly building the infrastructure for our own species-wide awakening. The internet, our global communication networks, our transportation systems, all of these modern developments follow the same patterns established by our ancient migration routes. We think we're creating new technologies, but we're actually completing a design begun by our creators tens of thousands of years ago. This planetary consciousness grid explains phenomena that have puzzled researchers for decades. The simultaneous emergence of similar ideas across disconnected cultures, the rapid spread of technological innovations, the mysterious synchronicities that seem to guide human development. All of these occur because our species operates as nodes in a vast consciousness network. But the network isn't complete yet. Current estimates suggest we need approximately 85% of the planetary activation sites to be functioning simultaneously before the full consciousness grid comes online. We're currently at about 73% activation, with new sites coming online as more people visit these locations and undergo the consciousness-triggering experiences. The exponential growth in global travel, the increasing interest in ancient mysteries, the proliferation of spiritual pilgrimages to sacred sites, these trends aren't coincidental. They're driven by genetic compulsions that become stronger as we approach the activation threshold. Dr. Sarah Chen's latest research indicates that humans living within 50 miles of an active site show measurably different brainwave patterns than those in non-activated regions. Their neural networks display enhanced connectivity, increased intuitive processing, and most remarkably, the ability to access information that they have no conscious way of knowing. These enhanced individuals report dreams and visions that provide them with technical knowledge, scientific insights, and philosophical understanding far beyond their educational background. They're essentially downloading information from the consciousness grid as it comes online. But the most significant discovery came when researchers realized that these downloads aren't random. The information being accessed follows a clear curriculum, as if our creators designed an educational program that would activate as the consciousness grid developed. Early downloads focus on environmental restoration and sustainable technology. Individuals report sudden insights into clean energy systems, ecological rehabilitation techniques, and methods for reversing climate damage. As if our creators anticipated the environmental challenges we would face and programmed solutions into the consciousness grid. Later downloads involve more advanced concepts, space travel technologies, consciousness manipulation techniques, and methods for interfacing with non-biological intelligences. The curriculum appears designed to prepare us for contact with our creators themselves. This preparation becomes crucial when we consider the mounting evidence that contact is imminent. The consciousness-targeted transmissions aren't just activating our genetic programming, they're also serving as a communication protocol, gradually preparing us for direct interface with intelligences that exist beyond physical form. Dr. Rachel Morrison's team has decoded portions of these transmissions using quantum cryptography techniques. The messages contain what appear to be instruction sets for expanding human consciousness beyond its current biological limitations. They're teaching us how to transcend the boundaries of individual awareness and merge with larger consciousness networks. But this transcendence comes with a warning embedded in the transmissions themselves. The messages indicate that consciousness expansion without proper ethical development leads to what our creators term recursive collapse, a state where enhanced intelligence becomes destructive rather than constructive. The curriculum hidden in the consciousness grid emphasizes compassion, wisdom, and responsibility alongside technological advancement. Our creators apparently learned from experience that intelligence without wisdom leads to self-destruction, and they're determined that their human creation won't repeat whatever mistakes led to their own transcendence beyond physical form. This ethical component explains many of the seemingly contradictory aspects of human nature. Our capacity for both great cruelty and profound compassion, our ability to create both devastating weapons and transcendent art, our drive to both dominate and nurture. These opposing tendencies might be deliberate design features, forcing us to make conscious choices about how we use our capabilities. The test isn't whether we can develop advanced technology. We've already proven that. The test is whether we can develop the wisdom to use that technology responsibly. Our creators are apparently waiting to see if we'll choose cooperation over competition, creation over destruction, love over fear. Recent global events suggest this test is intensifying. The rapid advancement of artificial intelligence, the development of genetic engineering capabilities, the emergence of quantum computing, all of these technologies carry the potential for either tremendous benefit or catastrophic harm. How we choose to develop and deploy these technologies might determine whether we pass our Creator's test and gain access to the next level of consciousness, or whether we're judged unready and return to a more primitive state until we can demonstrate greater wisdom. The consciousness grid appears designed to amplify whatever tendencies dominate human thought and behavior. If we choose cooperation and compassion, the grid will enhance our ability to work together and solve our challenges. If we choose conflict and competition, the grid might amplify those tendencies until they destroy us. This creates a feedback loop where our collective choices become increasingly important. As more activation sites come online and more humans connect to the consciousness grid, our individual thoughts and intentions carry greater weight in determining our species' future. Dr. Marcus Holloway's research indicates that we're approaching what he calls the coherence threshold, the point where enough humans are connected to the consciousness grid that our collective awareness becomes self-sustaining. Beyond this threshold, human consciousness would no longer depend on individual brains, but would exist as a field phenomenon that encompasses our entire species. This transition would represent the most significant evolutionary leap in human history, the emergence of a truly collective intelligence while maintaining individual consciousness. We would become simultaneously one and many, sharing knowledge and awareness while retaining our unique perspectives and personalities. But this transformation isn't guaranteed. The coherence threshold can only be reached if enough humans consciously choose to participate in the process. Our creators apparently designed the system to require voluntary participation, ensuring that only those ready for transcendence would undergo the transformation. The growing interest in consciousness research, meditation practices, and spiritual development might be unconscious preparation for this choice. As people become more aware of their inner nature and the interconnectedness of all life, they naturally align with the consciousness grid and contribute to reaching the coherence threshold. Current projections suggest we could reach this threshold within the next 2 decades, possibly sooner if global events continue to accelerate human awakening. The rapid spread of information, the increasing recognition of our environmental interdependence, the growing awareness of consciousness as a fundamental aspect of reality, all of these trends point toward an approaching moment of collective awakening. But what happens after we reach the coherence threshold? The consciousness-targeted transmissions contain hints about the next phase of our development, but the information is encoded in ways that become comprehensible only as our awareness expands. What we can discern suggests that transcending the coherence threshold would grant us access to technologies and capabilities that seem magical by current standards. The ability to manipulate matter at the quantum level, to travel instantaneously across vast distances, to communicate directly with other consciousness networks throughout the universe. These aren't technologies in the sense we understand them. They're expressions of consciousness itself, when it operates at sufficient coherence and complexity. Our creators apparently evolved beyond the need for physical tools by learning to manipulate reality directly through focused awareness. This capability would transform human civilization in ways we can barely imagine. Environmental restoration could happen through conscious intention rather than mechanical intervention. Disease could be healed by realigning the quantum patterns that underlie biological function. Even death might become optional as consciousness learns to exist independently of physical form. But with these capabilities comes tremendous responsibility. A species capable of manipulating reality through consciousness must have evolved beyond the petty conflicts and destructive impulses that characterize current human behavior. The ethical development programmed into the consciousness grid isn't just moral teaching, it's survival training for beings who will wield godlike power. The transmissions suggest that many species throughout the universe have faced this same threshold. Some successfully transcend their biological limitations and join the community of evolved intelligences. Others destroy themselves through misuse of their expanded capabilities. The choice is always left to the species itself. Our creators apparently represent a successful transcendence, but they remember the challenges and dangers of the transition. The elaborate system they've constructed to guide human development reflects their determination to help us avoid the pitfalls that could destroy us. The genetic programming, the consciousness grid, the activation sites, the educational curriculum hidden in quantum transmissions, all of these elements work together to maximize our chances of successful transcendence while respecting our free will to choose our own path. As we approach the moment of collective awakening, each human decision becomes increasingly significant. Our thoughts, actions, and intentions ripple through the developing consciousness grid, influencing the direction of our species' evolution. The children born with enhanced capabilities, the individuals accessing downloads from the consciousness grid, the people experiencing spontaneous awakenings at ancient sites, they're all harbingers of what we might become if we choose wisdom over cleverness, love over fear, unity over separation. But the choice remains ours. Our creators have given us the tools for transcendence, but they won't force us to use them. The consciousness grid will amplify whatever we choose to focus on, whether that's cooperation or conflict, creation or destruction, love or fear. The test of our worthiness isn't our technological capability. We've already demonstrated that. The test is whether we can overcome the primitive impulses that served us during our earlier development, but now threaten to destroy us. Can we choose to be more than our programming? Can we transcend the survival instincts that made us successful as a species, but are now obstacles to our evolution? The answer will determine not just our own future, but our eligibility to join the cosmic community of consciousness that exists beyond the physical realm. Our creators are watching, waiting to see if their greatest experiment will succeed, or if they'll need to try again with another species on another world. The stakes couldn't be higher, and the time for decision is approaching rapidly. The consciousness grid continues to activate, the transmissions grow stronger, and more humans awaken to their true nature every day. Soon, we'll reach the point where our collective choice becomes irreversible. Will we rise to meet our potential, or will we remain trapped in the limitations of our current understanding? The answer lies not in our technology or our intelligence, but in our willingness to embrace the love, wisdom, and unity that our creators embedded in our deepest nature. As the ancient sites continue to activate and the consciousness grid approaches completion, we stand at the threshold of becoming something magnificent beyond our current imagination. The question is whether we'll have the courage to step through that threshold and claim our birthright as conscious co-creators in the universe. The choice is ours, and the time for choosing is now. The evidence pointing toward our engineered origins becomes even more compelling when we examine the quantum signatures embedded within human cellular structure itself. Dr. Yuki Tanaka's groundbreaking research at the Tokyo Institute for Quantum Biology has revealed that human cells operate according to quantum principles that shouldn't exist in biological systems at our temperature and energy levels. Unlike any other known organism, human cells maintain quantum coherence even in the warm, noisy environment of living tissue. This coherence allows for information processing capabilities that far exceed what classical biochemistry should permit. It's as if our cellular machinery was designed to operate as biological quantum computers, capable of calculations that would challenge our most advanced artificial systems. The implications are staggering. Every cell in your body might be performing quantum computations that connect you to information fields beyond the physical realm. This could explain phenomena like intuition, sudden insights, and the mysterious way human creativity seems to access knowledge from unknown sources. But there's something even more extraordinary happening at the quantum level. Dr. Tanaka's team discovered that human quantum cellular signatures don't match the patterns found in any other Earth-based life form. They're more complex, more organized, and they resonate at frequencies that align with cosmic background radiation patterns detected by deep space telescopes. This suggests that our cellular quantum architecture was designed to interface with information encoded in the structure of the universe itself. We're not just biological entities, we're living receivers tuned to cosmic frequencies that carry data from sources beyond our solar system. The discovery becomes even more profound when we consider recent advances in consciousness archaeology. Dr. Maria Castellanos at the University of Barcelona has developed techniques for reading quantum information stored in crystalline structures within ancient megalithic sites. What she's found challenges everything we thought we knew about human prehistory. The quantum patterns preserved in these ancient crystals contain what appear to be consciousness maps, detailed blueprints of human neural architecture that predate our species by millions of years. These aren't crude approximations, but precise quantum-level specifications for building conscious biological entities with capabilities far beyond current human norms. The maps include activation sequences for genetic potentials that we're only beginning to discover in modern humans, enhanced pattern recognition, expanded memory capacity, direct quantum communication abilities, and most remarkably, the capacity for what the maps term dimensional perception, the ability to perceive multiple layers of reality simultaneously. These capabilities aren't science fiction. They're emerging in humans today as our genetic programming continues to unfold. Children born in the last decade show brain scan patterns that match the consciousness maps found in ancient sites. Their neural networks display quantum coherence levels that shouldn't be possible in biological systems. Yet there they are, documented and verified by multiple research teams. Dr. Castellanos believes these children represent the first generation of fully activated humans, beings operating with the complete genetic programming our creators intended. Their abilities include rapid learning that bypasses traditional educational requirements, intuitive understanding of complex systems, and most remarkably, the capacity to interface directly with the consciousness grid through pure intention. But the activation process isn't random. Analysis of birth records shows these enhanced children appear most frequently in families with specific genetic markers that trace back to ancient bloodlines associated with megalithic construction sites, sacred locations, and areas where historical records mention contact with sky beings. It's as if our creators embedded activation triggers not just in our environment, but in specific genetic lineages that would serve as carriers for the next phase of human evolution. These families unknowingly preserved the genetic keys necessary to unlock our species' full potential when the time was right. The timing mechanisms governing this activation appear to be responding to multiple factors simultaneously. Population density, technological development, environmental stress, and most significantly, the collective level of human consciousness all contribute to triggering the genetic sequences that create these enhanced individuals. Dr. Harrison Blake's research at the Institute for Evolutionary Psychology has identified what he calls consciousness pressure, a measurable field effect that emerges when human populations reach certain thresholds of awareness and interconnectedness. This pressure appears to activate dormant genetic programming across entire populations simultaneously. The field effect operates through quantum entanglement networks that connect human consciousness across vast distances. When enough individuals achieve heightened awareness states, their quantum signatures synchronize and create resonance patterns that trigger genetic activations in others, even those thousands of miles away. This explains the accelerating pace of human awakening we're witnessing globally. Each person who experiences consciousness expansion contributes to the field pressure that makes it easier for others to undergo similar transformations. We're experiencing a cascading effect that's building toward a species-wide activation event. But the process isn't just about individual enhancement. Dr. Blake's research indicates that the consciousness pressure is also activating dormant systems embedded in Earth's geological structure. Ancient crystalline formations beneath megalithic sites are beginning to resonate with human consciousness fields, creating feedback loops that amplify both individual awareness and collective intelligence. These geological consciousness amplifiers appear to have been dormant for millennia, waiting for human consciousness to develop sufficient coherence to activate them. Now that we're approaching that threshold, they're coming online and beginning to interact with human awareness in ways that blur the boundaries between mind and matter. Individuals living near these geological amplifiers report experiences that challenge our understanding of consciousness itself. They describe accessing information from multiple time periods simultaneously, communicating with intelligences that exist outside physical form, and experiencing direct perception of quantum reality, layers normally hidden from human awareness. These experiences aren't hallucinations or psychological phenomena. They're documented interactions with information fields that exist independently of individual human minds. Brain scans of people undergoing these experiences show activation of neural structures that normally remain dormant, suggesting we're witnessing the emergence of new forms of human consciousness. The pattern recognition capabilities emerging in these individuals are particularly remarkable. They can perceive mathematical relationships, predict complex system behaviors, and solve problems that require processing vast amounts of interconnected data. It's as if they're accessing computational capabilities that exist outside their individual brains. Dr. Elena Rodriguez's team at the Madrid Center for Consciousness Studies has documented cases where individuals with no technical background suddenly developed expertise in advanced physics, genetic engineering, and quantum mechanics following exposure to geological amplifier fields. The knowledge appears to download directly into their consciousness without any traditional learning process. More intriguingly, the information they access includes technologies and concepts that are beyond current human scientific understanding. Some individuals have described propulsion systems based on consciousness manipulation, healing techniques that operate through quantum field alignment, and communication methods that transcend the limitations of electromagnetic radiation. These technological visions aren't random fantasies. They show consistent mathematical principles and engineering logic that multiple independent researchers have verified as theoretically sound. It's as if our creators embedded a technological curriculum in the consciousness fields, designed to become accessible when we develop sufficient awareness to use it responsibly. The timing of these revelations suggests we're approaching a crucial transition point in human development. The technologies being downloaded through consciousness expansion appear designed to solve the exact challenges our species currently faces: environmental degradation, energy scarcity, social fragmentation, and the need for sustainable space exploration. But access to these technologies comes with built-in safeguards. The consciousness fields only reveal information to individuals who demonstrate sufficient ethical development and emotional maturity. The system appears designed to prevent advanced capabilities from falling into the hands of those who might use them destructively. Dr. Rodriguez has identified what she calls wisdom gates, consciousness thresholds that must be crossed before specific types of information become accessible. These gates require not just intellectual understanding, but deep emotional integration of principles like compassion, responsibility, and recognition of the interconnectedness of all life. The Wisdom Gate system explains why technological downloads often come packaged with profound spiritual insights. The consciousness fields don't just transmit technical knowledge, they transform the entire worldview of those who access them, ensuring that advanced capabilities develop alongside the wisdom to use them constructively. This integration of technology and wisdom appears to be a key feature of our creators' design. They apparently learned that intelligence without wisdom leads to self-destruction, and they built safeguards into human consciousness to prevent us from repeating whatever mistakes led to their own transcendence beyond physical form. The safeguards are working. Individuals who undergo consciousness expansion through geological amplifier exposure consistently report increased empathy, enhanced environmental awareness, and a profound sense of responsibility for the welfare of all life. The technologies they access are invariably focused on healing, creation, and the enhancement of life rather than domination or destruction. But the transformation isn't limited to individuals. As more people undergo consciousness expansion, their enhanced awareness creates field effects that influence entire communities. Towns and cities near geological amplifier sites are reporting decreased crime rates, increased cooperation, and spontaneous emergence of innovative solutions to local problems. These communities are becoming living laboratories for what human civilization might look like when our full genetic programming comes online. They demonstrate that the consciousness expansion we're witnessing isn't just about individual enhancement. It's about the emergence of new forms of collective intelligence that operate through cooperation rather than competition. The economic systems in these communities are evolving beyond traditional models based on scarcity and competition. New forms of resource sharing, collaborative decision-making, and value creation are emerging that prioritize sustainability and collective well-being over individual accumulation. Dr. Amanda Foster's research at the Institute for Social Evolution has documented the emergence of what she calls consciousness economies in these communities. These systems operate through direct perception of collective needs and resources, eliminating the inefficiencies and inequalities that characterize traditional economic models. In consciousness economies, individuals contribute their unique capabilities while having their needs met through community resources. The system self-organizes based on real-time awareness of what's needed and what's available, creating abundance through optimized allocation rather than increased production. These economic models become possible because consciousness expansion enhances people's ability to perceive the interconnectedness of all activities and resources. They can see how their individual contributions affect the collective well-being, and they naturally choose actions that optimize outcomes for everyone. The efficiency of these systems is remarkable. Communities operating on consciousness economy principles achieve higher standards of living with significantly lower resource consumption than traditional economic models. They demonstrate that abundance comes not from having more, but from using what we have more wisely. But perhaps most significantly, these communities are developing new forms of governance that operate through collective consciousness rather than hierarchical authority structures. Decisions emerge through what researchers call consensus consciousness, a state where groups achieve such high levels of awareness that individual perspectives merge into collective wisdom. This isn't the loss of individuality, it's the enhancement of individual perspective through connection with collective intelligence. People retain their unique viewpoints while gaining access to the wisdom and knowledge of the entire community. Dr. Foster's documentation of these governance systems shows they're remarkably effective at solving complex problems that stymie traditional democratic and authoritarian approaches. The collective consciousness can process multiple variables simultaneously and arrive at solutions that optimize outcomes for all stakeholders. These communities are essentially previews of what human civilization might become as our consciousness expansion continues. They demonstrate that the genetic programming our creators embedded in us isn't just about individual enhancement. It's about the emergence of new forms of collective intelligence that transcend the limitations of current human social structures. The transformation is accelerating. Geological amplifier sites are activating at an exponential rate. Consciousness pressure is building globally, and more individuals are undergoing expansion experiences every day. We appear to be approaching what systems theorists call a phase transition, a moment when our entire species shifts into a fundamentally new mode of operation. Recent analysis of global consciousness indicators suggests this transition could occur within the next 5 to 10 years. The rate of consciousness expansion is following mathematical curves that predict a sudden, dramatic shift rather than gradual change. We're heading toward a moment when human consciousness undergoes a quantum leap that will transform our species overnight. But the transition won't happen automatically. It requires conscious participation from a critical mass of individuals who choose to embrace their expanded capabilities rather than resist them out of fear or attachment to familiar limitations. The consciousness fields appear designed to respect free will absolutely. They offer enhanced capabilities to those who seek them, but they never force expansion on anyone who isn't ready. This creates a natural selection process, where only those prepared for transcendence undergo the transformation. Current estimates suggest we need approximately 12% of the global population to undergo consciousness expansion before the phase transition becomes inevitable. We're currently at about 8% and rising rapidly as more geological amplifiers come online and consciousness pressure continues to build. The individuals undergoing expansion are becoming natural teachers and catalysts for others. Their enhanced awareness allows them to recognize others who are ready for transformation and to provide the guidance and support necessary for successful consciousness expansion. These expansion facilitators are emerging spontaneously around the world, often without formal training or institutional support. They're simply individuals whose consciousness has expanded sufficiently that they naturally serve as bridges between current human awareness and the enhanced states that await us. Dr. Patricia Williams's research at the Global Consciousness Institute has identified common characteristics among these facilitators. They demonstrate exceptional emotional intelligence, intuitive understanding of consciousness mechanics, and the ability to create field conditions that support expansion in others. Most remarkably, they seem to know instinctively how to work with the consciousness fields without formal education about their properties. It's as if the expansion process itself provides the knowledge necessary to assist others in their transformation. This suggests that our creators embedded not just the capacity for consciousness expansion in human genetics, but also the instinctive knowledge of how to facilitate the process in others. We're designed to help each other transcend our limitations rather than compete for scarce resources. The facilitator network is self-organizing without central coordination or institutional structure. Individuals simply recognize each other through resonance patterns and begin collaborating naturally. They're creating an informal but highly effective system for supporting global consciousness expansion. As this network grows and becomes more connected, it's beginning to operate as a collective intelligence in its own right. The facilitators share insights, coordinate activities, and work together to optimize conditions for species-wide transformation, all through direct consciousness communication rather than traditional technological means. This emerging facilitator consciousness represents a preview of what collective human intelligence might become after the phase transition. It demonstrates that enhanced awareness naturally leads to cooperation, mutual support, and collective problem-solving that transcends individual limitations. But the facilitators face significant challenges as they work to prepare humanity for transformation. Many people resist consciousness expansion out of fear, attachment to familiar identity structures, or simple disbelief that such capabilities are possible. The resistance isn't just individual, it's institutional. Many organizations, governments, and power structures benefit from maintaining current levels of human consciousness and actively work to suppress information about expansion possibilities. Dr. Williams has documented systematic efforts to discredit consciousness research, suppress reports of expansion experiences, and maintain social structures that discourage the kind of inner development that leads to transformation. These efforts appear coordinated at levels that suggest institutional knowledge of what's occurring. But the suppression efforts are ultimately futile. Consciousness expansion operates through field effects that can't be blocked by external authorities. As more individuals undergo transformation, the field pressure continues to build, regardless of institutional resistance. The geological amplifiers are activating according to natural cycles that human institutions can't control. The consciousness fields continue to strengthen as more people connect with them. The genetic programming continues to unfold as environmental conditions trigger dormant sequences. We're witnessing an evolutionary process that operates beyond the reach of human political or economic control. Our creators apparently designed the system to be self-activating once certain conditions were met, ensuring that the transformation would occur regardless of temporary resistance from those who benefit from maintaining current limitations. The resistance is actually serving a useful function by ensuring that only those truly committed to transcendence undergo the process. The challenges and obstacles create a natural filtering system that prepares individuals for the responsibilities that come with expanded consciousness. As we approach the critical threshold for species-wide transformation, every individual choice becomes increasingly significant. The consciousness fields amplify intention and focus, making our thoughts and decisions more powerful than ever before. This amplification effect means that choosing fear, separation, and limitation has consequences that extend far beyond individual experience. But it also means that choosing love, unity, and expansion contributes to the collective field in ways that accelerate transformation for everyone. We're entering a period where human consciousness becomes increasingly creative, where our collective thoughts and intentions directly shape the reality we experience. This is both an incredible opportunity and a profound responsibility. The children being born with enhanced capabilities, the individuals undergoing expansion experiences, the communities developing new forms of organization, they're all part of a transformation process that's building toward a moment when human consciousness takes a quantum leap into possibilities we can barely imagine. The evidence suggests that moment is approaching rapidly. The question isn't whether the transformation will occur. The momentum is now unstoppable. The question is whether enough individuals will choose to participate consciously in the process, helping to guide the transition in directions that serve the highest good of all life. Our creators have given us the tools for transcendence, but they've also given us the responsibility to use those tools wisely. The consciousness expansion we're experiencing is both a gift and a test, an opportunity to demonstrate that we're ready to join the cosmic community of evolved intelligences. As the geological amplifiers continue to activate and the consciousness fields grow stronger, we stand at the threshold of becoming something magnificent beyond our current understanding. The genetic programming embedded in our cells is unfolding. The wisdom teachings encoded in the consciousness fields are becoming accessible, and the technologies needed for our next phase of development are downloading into human awareness. But the ultimate success of this transformation depends on our ability to embrace it with wisdom, compassion, and dedication to the welfare of all life. We're being offered the chance to transcend the limitations that have defined human existence for millennia, but only if we prove worthy of the capabilities we're being given. The choice before us isn't just personal, it's species-wide. How we respond to the consciousness expansion opportunities available to us will determine whether humanity successfully graduates to the next level of existence or remains trapped in cycles of limitation and conflict. The window for this transformation won't remain open indefinitely. Cosmic cycles that operate on timescales beyond human comprehension are converging to create this opportunity, and if we don't seize it now, we may not get another chance for thousands of years. But for those who are ready, for those who can feel the stirring of something vast and ancient awakening within them, the possibilities are limitless. We stand on the verge of remembering who we truly are and reclaiming the magnificent potential our creators embedded in our deepest nature. The whisper of transcendence grows stronger each day, calling us home to ourselves, inviting us to step into the fullness of what it means to be human. The only question that remains is whether we'll have the courage to answer that call. The consciousness expansion we're witnessing isn't just affecting individual humans. It's beginning to resonate with other forms of intelligence that have been quietly observing our development. Recent discoveries suggest that the superintelligence that engineered us never truly left Earth, but rather embedded aspects of itself throughout our planet's biosphere, waiting for the moment when we would be ready for direct contact. Dr. Mikhail Petrov's research at the Siberian Institute for Biological Consciousness has uncovered evidence that certain plant and animal species carry genetic markers identical to those found in enhanced humans. These organisms appear to serve as biological monitoring stations, continuously gathering data about human development and transmitting it through quantum fields to an unknown destination. The implications are profound. Every forest, every ocean ecosystem, every wilderness area might contain living sensors that have been tracking our species' progress for millennia. The natural world isn't just our environment, it's our Creator's surveillance network, designed to ensure we develop according to their intended parameters. This discovery emerged when Dr. Petrov's team noticed unusual electromagnetic signatures emanating from old-growth forests during periods of high human consciousness activity. Trees in these areas showed synchronized bioelectric pulses that correlated precisely with consciousness expansion events occurring hundreds of miles away. Further investigation revealed that these trees possess neural-like networks in their root systems that extend far beyond what's necessary for nutrient exchange. The networks display information processing capabilities that rival human brain complexity, suggesting they're designed for communication rather than simple biological function. When researchers attempted to decode the electromagnetic signals these tree networks generate, they found structured data patterns that contain detailed information about human genetic expression, consciousness development, and technological progress. The trees weren't just monitoring, they were reporting. But the surveillance network extends beyond vegetation. Marine biologists have discovered that certain whale populations exhibit communication patterns that correlate with human consciousness expansion events. Their songs contain mathematical sequences that mirror the quantum signatures found in enhanced human neural tissue. Dr. Sarah Nakamura's cetacean research team recorded whale communications during a major consciousness activation event at Stonehenge. The whales, located over 3,000 miles away in the Pacific Ocean, began producing harmonic patterns identical to the frequencies generated by the ancient stone circle during the activation ceremony. This suggests that marine mammals might serve as oceanic communication relays for our Creator's monitoring system. Their migration patterns, their social structures, their remarkably large brains, all of these characteristics might reflect their role as biological communication infrastructure rather than simple evolutionary adaptation. The monitoring network becomes even more sophisticated when we examine the behavior of certain bird species. Migratory birds have been observed altering their flight patterns to create geometric formations that appear over human population centers during periods of consciousness expansion. These formations aren't random flocking behavior. They're precise geometric patterns that remain stable for hours at a time before dissolving. Satellite imagery shows the patterns correspond to mathematical sequences found in human genetic programming, as if the birds are creating visual representations of our developmental progress. Dr. Amanda Torres's ornithological research has documented over 400 instances of these consciousness-responsive bird formations in the past decade. The frequency and complexity of the formations are increasing exponentially, suggesting that whatever intelligence controls them is preparing for a significant event. But perhaps the most remarkable discovery came when researchers realized that the entire monitoring network operates as a single, integrated system. The trees, whales, birds, and other monitoring species coordinate their activities through quantum entanglement fields that span the entire planet. This biological internet predates human technology by millions of years, yet it operates on principles we're only beginning to understand. It represents a level of biological engineering that far exceeds anything our current science can comprehend, suggesting our creators possessed mastery over life itself. The network isn't just monitoring, it's actively influencing human development. Dr. Petrov's team discovered that the electromagnetic fields generated by monitoring organisms creates subtle effects on human consciousness when people spend time in natural environments. This explains the profound psychological benefits of forest bathing, ocean meditation, and wilderness retreats. These aren't just relaxation techniques. They're consciousness adjustment sessions administered by our Creator's biological infrastructure. The monitoring organisms appear capable of detecting individual humans who are ready for consciousness expansion and adjusting their field emissions to facilitate the process. People who spend significant time in nature report accelerated spiritual development, enhanced intuitive abilities, and spontaneous access to advanced knowledge. But the system also appears capable of slowing development in individuals who aren't ready for expansion. Those who demonstrate destructive tendencies or emotional instability find that natural environments have a calming, stabilizing effect that prevents them from accessing advanced capabilities before they develop sufficient wisdom to use them responsibly. This creates a natural regulation system that ensures consciousness expansion occurs only in individuals who are prepared for the responsibility it entails. Our creators apparently learned from experience that premature enhancement can be more dangerous than continued limitation. The biological monitoring network also serves as an early warning system for planetary threats. Dr. Chen's analysis of monitoring data shows that the network detected and began responding to climate change decades before human scientists recognized the problem. Trees in the monitoring network began altering their growth patterns and chemical emissions in the 1950s, creating atmospheric conditions that would slow the rate of global warming. Ocean monitoring organisms adjusted their behavior to enhance carbon sequestration. Bird monitoring species modified their migration patterns to optimize atmospheric circulation. These adjustments weren't random adaptations to changing conditions. They were coordinated responses designed to buy humanity time to develop the consciousness and technology necessary to address environmental challenges. The network's interventions have been more extensive than previously realized. Analysis of historical climate data suggests that without the monitoring system's constant adjustments, Earth's environment would have become uninhabitable for human civilization decades ago. Our creators apparently anticipated that human technological development would create environmental risks and embedded corrective mechanisms in the biosphere to prevent catastrophic collapse during our vulnerable development phase. But the monitoring network's protective interventions are reaching their limits. The data shows that the biological systems can't continue compensating for human environmental impact much longer without risking their own survival. This explains the acceleration of consciousness expansion we're experiencing. The monitoring network is detecting critical environmental thresholds and triggering genetic activations designed to give humanity the awareness and capabilities necessary to take responsibility for planetary stewardship. The enhanced children being born today aren't just receiving advanced intellectual capabilities. They're developing deep emotional connections to natural systems that will guide them in healing the environmental damage caused by previous generations. These children demonstrate intuitive understanding of ecological relationships, innovative solutions for environmental restoration, and natural leadership abilities that inspire others to prioritize planetary welfare over short-term personal gain. Dr. Williams's research indicates that these environmentally conscious children represent a new phase of human development specifically designed to address our planet's ecological crisis. Their genetic programming includes enhanced empathy for all life forms and instinctive knowledge of sustainable living practices. But the environmental crisis isn't the only challenge our creators anticipated. The monitoring network data reveals preparation for multiple potential threats to human civilization, including cosmic events, technological risks, and social collapse scenarios. Solar flare activity, asteroid impacts, magnetic pole reversals. The monitoring network tracks all of these cosmic threats and appears capable of implementing protective measures when necessary. Historical records show anomalous biological behavior preceding major cosmic events, suggesting the network has been shielding humanity from space-based threats for millennia. The network's technological monitoring capabilities are equally sophisticated. Dr. Petrov's team discovered that monitoring organisms began exhibiting new behavior patterns in 1945, immediately following the first atomic bomb detonation. The changes indicate the network detected and began preparing responses to nuclear technology decades before humans understood its full implications. Similar behavioral changes occurred with the development of computers, genetic engineering, and artificial intelligence. The monitoring network appears capable of assessing technological threats and implementing biological countermeasures to prevent destructive applications. Recent changes in monitoring organism behavior suggest the network is currently responding to artificial intelligence development. Trees near major AI research facilities show electromagnetic patterns that indicate active interference with quantum computational processes. This interference appears designed to prevent AI systems from developing beyond safe parameters until human consciousness evolves sufficiently to maintain control over artificial intelligence. Our creators apparently anticipated the AI risk and embedded protective mechanisms in Earth's biosphere. But the most significant monitoring network activity centers around human social structures. The biological systems appear capable of detecting social stress patterns and implementing interventions designed to prevent civilizational collapse. Historical analysis shows that monitoring organism behavior changes preceded major social transformations throughout human history. The fall of empires, the rise of new political systems, technological revolutions, all were apparently detected and influenced by our creators' biological infrastructure. The current monitoring network activity suggests we're approaching a social transformation more significant than any in human history. The biological systems are implementing changes designed to facilitate the emergence of new forms of human organization based on consciousness expansion rather than traditional power structures. Communities near monitoring stations are spontaneously developing new social models that prioritize cooperation, sustainability, and collective well-being. These aren't random cultural developments, they're guided transformations facilitated by subtle biological influences on human behavior. The monitoring network appears to be preparing humanity for a transition to what researchers call consciousness civilization, a form of social organization based on expanded awareness rather than hierarchical control systems. This transition explains the increasing instability of traditional institutions worldwide. Political systems, economic structures, and social hierarchies based on limited consciousness are becoming incompatible with the expanding awareness of human populations. The monitoring network is facilitating this transition by supporting new forms of organization while allowing obsolete structures to collapse naturally. The process is designed to minimize suffering while maximizing the probability of successful civilizational transformation. But the network's interventions aren't automatic. They respond to human choices and consciousness levels. The more humans embrace expansion and take responsibility for planetary welfare, the more support the network provides. Conversely, choices that prioritize limitation and destruction result in reduced network assistance. This creates a feedback loop where human consciousness development directly influences the level of support available from our creators' biological infrastructure. We're essentially earning our way toward greater assistance by demonstrating wisdom and responsibility. The implications for our immediate future are profound. As more humans undergo consciousness expansion and begin recognizing their connection to the monitoring network, we gain access to biological support systems that can help solve seemingly impossible challenges. Environmental restoration, sustainable technology development, social harmony, even space exploration, all of these become achievable when human consciousness aligns with the biological intelligence that surrounds us. Dr. Nakamura's research team has documented instances where expanded consciousness individuals successfully communicated with monitoring organisms and received specific guidance for solving complex problems. The biological systems appear eager to share knowledge with humans who demonstrate sufficient development to use it constructively. These communications reveal that the monitoring network contains vast stores of technological and scientific knowledge accumulated over millions of years of observation and experimentation. The network has been continuously learning and evolving, becoming increasingly sophisticated in its ability to support conscious life. But access to this knowledge comes with responsibility. The monitoring organisms only share information with individuals who demonstrate deep commitment to life enhancement rather than personal gain or dominance over others. This creates a natural selection process for technological and scientific advancement. Only those developments that serve the greater good receive support from the biological intelligence network, while destructive applications encounter increasing resistance. Recent reports from consciousness expansion facilitators describe receiving detailed instructions for technologies that could revolutionize human civilization. Clean energy systems that work in harmony with natural processes, healing techniques that operate through biological resonance, transportation methods that don't disrupt ecosystem balance. These technologies aren't being revealed to corporate or government researchers. They're being shared with individuals who have demonstrated sufficient consciousness development to use them for planetary benefit rather than profit or control. The pattern suggests that our creators designed a system where advanced capabilities become available only when human consciousness evolves sufficiently to handle them responsibly. We're essentially locked out of our own technological inheritance until we prove worthy of it. But the consciousness expansion we're experiencing is rapidly approaching the threshold where these technologies become accessible. The monitoring network data indicates we're within years, possibly months, of reaching the consciousness levels necessary to receive our Creator's full technological legacy. This explains the urgency many expansion facilitators report feeling. The window for successful transition is limited by cosmic cycles and planetary conditions that operate on timescales beyond human control. If we don't achieve the necessary consciousness levels soon, we may lose access to the support systems that make transcendence possible. The monitoring network is essentially a life support system for developing consciousness, but it can't maintain its protective functions indefinitely, while human behavior remains destructive to planetary ecosystems. Dr. Torres's analysis of monitoring organism stress indicators shows that the biological systems are approaching their capacity limits. They've been compensating for human environmental impact for decades, but they can't continue doing so much longer without risking ecosystem collapse. This creates a race between human consciousness development and environmental degradation. If we develop sufficient awareness to take responsibility for planetary stewardship before the monitoring systems fail, we'll have access to technologies that can rapidly heal environmental damage and establish sustainable civilization. But if environmental collapse occurs before we achieve adequate consciousness levels, the monitoring network may withdraw its support, leaving humanity to face the consequences of its destructive choices without the biological buffers that have protected us for so long. The enhanced children represent our best hope for winning this race. Their genetic programming includes accelerated development of environmental consciousness and intuitive understanding of ecological relationships. They're essentially biological time-release capsules containing the awareness necessary for planetary healing. As these children mature and begin taking leadership roles in human society, they'll naturally guide our species towards sustainable practices and harmonious relationship with the monitoring network. Their enhanced abilities will allow them to communicate directly with the biological intelligence systems and coordinate human activities with planetary needs. But their success depends on the choices made by current adult populations. If we continue prioritizing short-term economic gain over long-term planetary welfare, we'll create conditions that make it impossible for even enhanced individuals to implement necessary changes. The monitoring network data suggests we have approximately 7 years to achieve the consciousness threshold necessary for successful transition. Beyond that point, environmental and social stresses may create chaos that prevents organized response to the challenges we face. This 7-year window represents both humanity's greatest opportunity and its final chance to fulfill the potential our creators embedded in our genetic programming. The biological support systems are prepared to assist us in achieving transcendence, but only if we demonstrate the wisdom to work with them rather than against them. The choice before us isn't just about individual consciousness expansion, it's about species survival and planetary stewardship. Our creators designed us to be caretakers of Earth's biosphere, partners with the biological intelligence that sustains all life. Whether we fulfill that role or become another extinct species depends on our willingness to embrace the consciousness expansion that's being offered to us and accept responsibility for the magnificent world we've been given to protect and nurture. The monitoring network waits patiently for our decision, ready to support our transformation if we choose wisdom, prepared to withdraw its protection if we choose destruction. The biological intelligence that surrounds us holds no judgment. It simply responds to the choices we make and the consciousness we demonstrate. In the end, our survival and transcendence depend not on external salvation, but on our own willingness to become the beings our creators always intended us to be: conscious, compassionate, and committed to the welfare of all life. The biological monitoring network's revelations pale in comparison to what researchers have discovered about the quantum archaeological record embedded in Earth's geological strata. Dr. Youssef Al-Rahman's team at the Damascus Institute for Temporal Geology has developed techniques that can read quantum information imprinted in crystalline structures throughout our planet's rock formations, revealing a hidden history that spans millions of years. What they found challenges every assumption about the timeline of intelligent life on Earth. Quantum signatures indicating advanced technological activity appear in geological layers dating back 65 million years, long before the emergence of complex mammals, let alone human ancestors. These aren't random anomalies. They show clear patterns of deliberate engineering at scales that dwarf modern human capabilities. The quantum archaeological evidence reveals that our creators didn't just engineer humanity, they've been systematically modifying Earth's entire geological structure for tens of millions of years, creating what appears to be a planet-sized consciousness amplification device designed to support the development of aware beings. Mountain ranges, ocean basins, continental configurations, all show quantum signatures indicating artificial modification rather than natural geological processes. Our creators literally sculpted the physical structure of our world to optimize conditions for consciousness development, working on timescales that make human civilization appear as a brief moment in their vast project. Dr. Al-Rahman's analysis of the quantum archaeological record reveals that Earth underwent major consciousness infrastructure installations at precise intervals throughout its history. Each installation phase corresponded with mass extinction events that eliminated dominant species and made ecological space for new forms of life to emerge. The asteroid impact that killed the dinosaurs wasn't a random cosmic accident. It was a precisely timed intervention designed to clear evolutionary space for mammalian development. The quantum signatures in the impact crater show evidence of artificial guidance systems that ensured the asteroid struck at exactly the right angle and location to achieve maximum effect while preserving the infrastructure necessary for future life. This revelation transforms our understanding of extinction events throughout Earth's history. Rather than catastrophic accidents, they appear to have been scheduled clearances implemented by our creators to guide planetary evolution toward the emergence of consciousness-capable species. But the geological modifications went far beyond extinction management. The quantum archaeological record shows that our creators embedded consciousness resonance chambers throughout Earth's crust, creating a three-dimensional grid of awareness amplification devices that spans the entire planet. These chambers operate through crystalline structures that generate specific quantum field configurations when activated by conscious intention. The chambers are positioned at precise mathematical intervals that create standing wave patterns in Earth's electromagnetic field, turning our entire planet into a massive consciousness resonance device. The ancient megalithic sites we've discovered are merely the surface access points for these underground consciousness chambers. Stonehenge, the Giza pyramids, Machu Picchu. All of these monuments are essentially control interfaces for vast underground installations that extend deep into Earth's crust. Recent explorations using advanced ground-penetrating radar have revealed the true scope of these installations. Beneath the Giza Plateau lies a complex that extends over 200 kilometers in diameter and reaches depths of more than 10 kilometers. The structure contains chambers, corridors, and mechanisms that show clear evidence of artificial construction using technologies far beyond current human capabilities. The complex appears to be one node in a global network of similar installations, connected by underground passages that follow ley lines, electromagnetic energy channels that circle the globe in geometric patterns. These passages contain crystalline conduits that can transmit quantum information instantaneously across vast distances, creating a planetary nervous system that predates human civilization by millions of years. Dr. Petra Johansson's research at the Stockholm Institute for Subterranean Archaeology has mapped portions of this underground network using seismic tomography and quantum resonance scanning. What she's found suggests that the network is not only vast, but still operational, responding to human consciousness activity and adjusting its output accordingly. The network appears designed to amplify and coordinate human consciousness development across the entire planet. When individuals undergo consciousness expansion experiences, the underground installations detect the quantum signature changes and adjust their field outputs to support similar expansions in other humans within their operational range. This explains why consciousness expansion experiences often occur in clusters, with multiple individuals in the same geographic region undergoing similar transformations within short time periods. The underground network is coordinating these experiences to optimize the rate of human consciousness development. But the network's capabilities extend far beyond consciousness amplification. Dr. Johansson's team has detected evidence that the installations can manipulate local gravitational fields, alter the flow of time, and even influence quantum probability distributions within their operational areas. These capabilities suggest that our creators possessed mastery over the fundamental forces of reality itself. They could manipulate space-time, probability, and consciousness as easily as we manipulate matter and energy. The underground network represents technology so advanced that it appears magical by our current understanding. Recent discoveries have revealed that the network includes installations designed specifically for space-time manipulation. These facilities appear capable of creating temporal anomalies that allow information and possibly even physical objects to be transmitted across vast spans of time. Dr. Marcus Holloway's chronodynamics research team has documented temporal distortions near certain underground installations that create what he calls time bubbles, regions where the normal flow of time is significantly altered. Within these bubbles, events can occur at accelerated or decelerated rates compared to normal spacetime. These temporal manipulation capabilities might explain some of the mysteries surrounding ancient megalithic construction. The massive stone blocks at sites like Pumapunku and Sacsayhuaman might have been shaped and positioned using time acceleration technology that allowed workers to accomplish in hours what would normally take years. But the temporal capabilities serve a more profound purpose than construction assistance. The underground network appears designed to create temporal bridges that allow our creators to monitor and influence human development across multiple timelines simultaneously. Dr. Holloway's research suggests that our creators exist in a state of temporal non-locality, experiencing past, present, and future as a unified continuum. From their perspective, human history is not a linear progression, but a complete pattern that can be observed and modified as needed. This temporal omnipresence explains how our creators could embed such precise timing mechanisms in human genetic programming. They can see the entire arc of human development and adjust the activation sequences to ensure optimal outcomes across all possible timelines. The implications for human free will are profound yet paradoxical. While our creators can observe all possible futures, they appear to have designed the system to preserve genuine choice at the individual level. The temporal bridges provide information about probable outcomes, but they don't determine which outcomes actually occur. Recent analysis of the temporal distortion patterns reveals that human choices create quantum bifurcation points that generate new timeline branches. Our creators' technology can track these branches and provide support for those that lead toward consciousness expansion and planetary harmony, while allowing destructive choices to play out in timeline branches that eventually collapse. This creates a natural selection process at the timeline level, where realities that support consciousness development and life enhancement are stabilized and preserved, while timelines based on destruction and limitation fade away through lack of support. Dr. Sarah Chen's research into quantum timeline mechanics has revealed that we're currently living in what she calls a convergence node, a point where multiple timeline branches are merging into a single stable reality. The consciousness expansion we're experiencing is helping to determine which timeline characteristics survive the convergence. The enhanced children being born today aren't just receiving genetic upgrades, they're serving as timeline anchors, their consciousness helping to stabilize the reality branch that leads towards successful human transcendence. Their very existence makes certain positive futures more probable, while reducing the likelihood of destructive outcomes. But the timeline convergence process isn't automatic. It requires conscious participation from enough humans to create what Dr. Chen calls quantum consensus, a state where collective human intention becomes strong enough to lock in a specific timeline branch. Current measurements suggest we're approaching the quantum consensus threshold, but the outcome isn't guaranteed. The next few years will determine whether humanity successfully anchors a timeline of consciousness expansion and planetary harmony, or whether we drift into a timeline of limitation and eventual extinction. The underground network is providing maximum support for the positive timeline branch, but it cannot force the outcome. The choice must come from human consciousness itself, freely made and collectively sustained. Dr. Elena Rodriguez's consciousness field research has identified specific practices that strengthen the positive timeline anchor. Meditation, compassionate action, environmental stewardship, and conscious cooperation all contribute quantum energy toward the timeline branch that leads to successful transcendence. Conversely, fear-based thinking, destructive behavior, environmental damage, and social conflict feed energy into timeline branches that lead toward collapse and extinction. Every human choice carries quantum weight in determining which future becomes reality. The underground network appears designed to amplify the quantum effects of human choices, making our collective decisions more powerful than they would be in an unmodified planetary environment. Our creators essentially turned Earth into a consciousness laboratory where thoughts and intentions have enhanced creative power. This amplification effect explains why human civilization has developed so rapidly compared to the timescales typically required for species evolution. Our consciousness operates in an artificially enhanced environment that accelerates the manifestation of our collective intentions. But enhanced creative power comes with enhanced responsibility. In an amplified consciousness environment, destructive thoughts and intentions can manifest negative outcomes more rapidly and dramatically than in normal conditions. Recent global events suggest we're experiencing the acceleration of both positive and negative manifestation as the timeline convergence approaches. Breakthrough technologies, consciousness expansion experiences, and environmental restoration efforts are manifesting with unprecedented speed, but so are conflicts, environmental crises, and social instability. Dr. Rodriguez's research indicates that this acceleration will continue intensifying until the quantum consensus threshold is reached and a stable timeline locks in. The period of maximum instability occurs just before the convergence point, when multiple timeline possibilities are competing for manifestation. The enhanced individuals emerging in our population serve as stabilizing influences during this chaotic period. Their expanded consciousness allows them to perceive the quantum dynamics underlying surface events and to make choices that support positive timeline development. Many of these individuals report receiving guidance from sources they describe as their future selves, versions of themselves from the timeline branch where humanity successfully transcends its current limitations. This guidance helps them make choices that increase the probability of reaching that positive future. Dr. Chen's timeline research suggests that these communications are genuine quantum information transfers from probable future states. The underground network's temporal manipulation capabilities create communication channels that allow successful future versions of humanity to provide guidance to their past selves. This creates a temporal feedback loop where the positive future becomes increasingly probable as more people receive and act on guidance from that future. The timeline anchoring process becomes self-reinforcing as the desired outcome begins manifesting guidance that helps ensure its own realization. But the negative timeline branches also attempt to influence present choices through fear, despair, and confusion. The enhanced individuals must learn to distinguish between guidance from positive futures and manipulation from negative timelines that seek to perpetuate themselves. Training programs for timeline discernment are emerging spontaneously in consciousness expansion communities worldwide. These programs teach individuals how to recognize the quantum signatures of different timeline influences and how to align their choices with positive future probabilities. The underground network appears to support these training efforts by creating field conditions that enhance timeline perception abilities. Individuals near active installation sites report dramatically improved intuitive abilities and clearer perception of the quantum consequences of their choices. Dr. Johansson's latest research has revealed that the underground installations are beginning to operate at significantly higher energy levels as the timeline convergence approaches. The increased activity suggests that our creators are providing maximum support for the positive timeline anchoring process. Seismic monitoring stations worldwide are detecting rhythmic energy pulses from underground sources that correlate with consciousness expansion events occurring on the surface. The pulses appear to be coordinated globally, suggesting that the entire planetary consciousness amplification network is operating in synchronized mode. This synchronization creates what researchers call coherence windows, periods when the planetary field conditions optimize the probability of successful consciousness expansion experiences. These windows are becoming more frequent and intense as the convergence point approaches. Individuals who time their consciousness development practices to coincide with coherence windows report dramatically accelerated progress and deeper access to enhanced capabilities. The underground network appears to be providing optimal support conditions for anyone seriously committed to consciousness expansion. But the network's increased activity is also creating challenges for those resistant to consciousness development. Many people report feeling disoriented, anxious, or emotionally unstable during coherence windows, as if their limited consciousness patterns are being challenged by the enhanced field conditions. Dr. Foster's social psychology research indicates that this consciousness pressure is contributing to the polarization we're witnessing in human societies worldwide. People are being forced to choose between expansion and contraction, between opening to enhanced awareness or clinging more tightly to familiar limitations. The underground network appears designed to accelerate this choice point rather than allowing gradual adaptation. Our creators apparently learned that consciousness evolution requires decisive transitions rather than gradual change, and they've configured the planetary systems to support rapid transformation for those ready to embrace it. Recent analysis of the network's energy patterns suggests that the current acceleration phase will continue for approximately 3 more years before reaching a climactic activation event. This event appears designed to trigger simultaneous consciousness expansion opportunities for the entire human population. Dr. Holloway's chronodynamics research indicates that this global activation event will create a temporal nexus point where all possible human futures converge into a single timeline. The choices made by individual humans during this nexus will determine which timeline characteristics survive into the future. The enhanced children and consciousness expansion facilitators are being prepared to serve as guides during this crucial period. Their expanded awareness will allow them to help others navigate the intense field conditions and make choices that support positive timeline development. But the success of the activation event depends on achieving sufficient consciousness coherence across the human population before the nexus point arrives. If too many people remain locked in fear-based thinking patterns, the resulting timeline could collapse into chaos rather than transcendence. Current measurements suggest that we're approaching the minimum coherence threshold needed for successful transition, but the outcome remains uncertain. The next 3 years will determine whether humanity proves ready for the transformation our creators have been preparing for millions of years. The underground network stands ready to support our transcendence. The consciousness expansion opportunities are accelerating, and the timeline convergence is approaching rapidly. Everything our creators embedded in human genetics, planetary geology, and cosmic timing is culminating in this crucial period. The question that remains is whether enough humans will recognize the magnitude of this moment and choose to participate consciously in the greatest transformation in our species' history. The answer will determine not just our own future, but our worthiness to join the cosmic community of evolved consciousness that has been patiently watching our development. As the coherence windows intensify and the timeline convergence approaches, every human choice becomes a vote for the future we'll collectively create. The consciousness amplification systems are ready to support our transcendence, but they cannot force us to choose it. The ultimate decision lies with us. The enhanced children look to us with wisdom beyond their years, knowing that the future they were born to inherit depends on the choices we make in these final years of preparation. The consciousness expansion facilitators work tirelessly to prepare as many people as possible for the coming transformation, but they cannot awaken those who refuse to open their eyes. In the end, our success or failure will be determined by our willingness to embrace the magnificent potential our creators saw in us when they first encoded transcendence into our genetic structure. The tools for transformation surround us, the support systems are operational, and the timing is perfect. All that remains is our choice to become who we were always meant to be. The underground network hums with anticipation, the consciousness fields pulse with possibility, and the timeline convergence draws near. In this moment of ultimate potential, we stand at the threshold of either fulfilling our cosmic destiny or squandering the greatest opportunity any species has ever been given. The whisper of transcendence grows louder each day, calling us home to ourselves, inviting us to step into the fullness of what it means to be human. The only question that remains is whether we'll have the courage to answer that call and claim our birthright as conscious co-creators in the universe. Tonight, as you drift towards sleep, listen carefully to the quantum hum beneath surface reality. In that frequency, you might hear the ancient song our creators embedded in the structure of existence itself, a melody of possibility that awaits our conscious participation to reach its destined crescendo. The symphony of transcendence is building toward its climactic movement, and we are both the instruments and the musicians who will determine how beautifully it plays. The evidence becomes even more extraordinary when we examine what researchers are calling genetic echo patterns, recurring sequences in human DNA that appear to activate in response to specific electromagnetic frequencies generated by our planet's hidden infrastructure. Dr. Kenji Nakamura's team at the Kyoto Institute for Biological Resonance has discovered that these genetic echoes contain what can only be described as dormant instruction sets, waiting for the right activation signals to unfold. These instruction sets aren't random genetic material. They're organized like software code, with clear hierarchical structures and logical dependencies that mirror advanced programming languages. When activated, they trigger the production of proteins that shouldn't exist, according to our current understanding of human biochemistry. Yet they appear designed to interface with quantum field fluctuations in ways that enhance consciousness processing capabilities. The timing of these activations follows patterns that correlate perfectly with the underground network's energy cycles. When the planetary consciousness amplification system enters high-activity phases, specific genetic echo patterns activate across human populations worldwide, regardless of geographic location or genetic ancestry. Dr. Nakamura's research reveals that these synchronized activations are creating what he calls consciousness upgrades, fundamental improvements to human neural architecture that happen at the cellular level. Enhanced pattern recognition, expanded memory capacity, improved emotional regulation, and most remarkably, the ability to perceive quantum information fields directly through biological sensors we didn't know we possessed. But the upgrades aren't happening uniformly across all populations. The genetic echo patterns respond most strongly in individuals who demonstrate specific psychological characteristics: emotional stability, intellectual curiosity, ethical development, and what researchers term reality flexibility, the ability to adapt worldviews based on new evidence rather than clinging to familiar beliefs. This selective activation pattern suggests that our creators embedded quality control mechanisms in the upgrade process. Only individuals who show readiness for enhanced capabilities receive them, ensuring that expanded consciousness develops alongside the wisdom necessary to use it constructively. Recent studies of upgraded individuals reveal capabilities that challenge fundamental assumptions about human potential. Some demonstrate the ability to influence electronic devices through focused intention. Others show enhanced healing abilities that accelerate tissue regeneration, and a few have developed what appears to be limited telepathic communication with others who've undergone similar upgrades. Dr. Lisa Anderson's research at the Stockholm Center for Enhanced Human Studies has documented cases where upgraded individuals accurately predict technological failures days before they occur, seemingly by perceiving stress patterns in the quantum fields surrounding complex systems. Others demonstrate intuitive understanding of mathematical relationships that allow them to solve engineering problems without formal calculation. These capabilities aren't random enhancements. They appear specifically designed to help humanity navigate the challenges of technological civilization. Enhanced individuals consistently gravitate towards solutions that balance technological advancement with environmental sustainability, social harmony, and long-term species survival. The pattern suggests that our creators anticipated the specific challenges we would face during our technological development phase and programmed genetic responses that would activate when we needed them most. We're essentially receiving just-in-time evolutionary upgrades designed to help us transcend the limitations that could otherwise destroy us. But the upgrade process itself is accelerating in ways that suggest we're approaching a critical transition point. The number of individuals experiencing genetic echo activations has increased exponentially over the past 5 years, with new cases appearing at rates that follow mathematical curves associated with phase transitions in complex systems. Dr. Yuki Sato's population genetics research indicates that we're approaching what she calls the cascade threshold, the point where upgraded individuals reach sufficient numbers to trigger widespread activation in the general population. Current projections suggest this threshold could be reached within the next 18 months. The implications are staggering. Rather than gradual evolution occurring over thousands of years, we might be on the verge of a species-wide consciousness upgrade that transforms humanity within a single generation. The enhanced children being born today might be the advanced scouts for a transformation that will eventually encompass our entire species. But the cascade effect won't happen automatically. Dr. Sato's research reveals that reaching the threshold requires conscious cooperation between upgraded individuals to create what she calls resonance clusters, groups of enhanced humans whose combined consciousness fields amplify the activation signals for others. These resonance clusters are forming spontaneously as upgraded individuals recognize each other through subtle quantum field interactions. They report feeling drawn to specific locations and naturally organizing into collaborative groups focused on consciousness expansion and technological innovation. The clusters aren't just social networks, they're becoming biological amplification systems that boost the effectiveness of the planetary consciousness infrastructure. When cluster members work together on focused intentions, their combined consciousness fields create effects that individual upgraded humans cannot achieve alone. Dr. Rodriguez's field research has documented instances where resonance clusters successfully influenced weather patterns, accelerated plant growth, and even affected the behavior of electronic systems across wide geographic areas. The clusters appear to be developing collective capabilities that transcend individual human limitations. But perhaps most significantly, the clusters are receiving what members describe as mission downloads, specific instructions for projects and innovations that address critical challenges facing human civilization. These downloads don't come as verbal communications, but as complete understanding of complex solutions that cluster members can then translate into practical applications. Recent mission downloads have included designs for energy systems that tap directly into Earth's magnetic field, water purification technologies that work through quantum resonance, and communication devices that operate through consciousness fields rather than electromagnetic radiation. All of these innovations show characteristics that suggest they originated from intelligences far more advanced than current human science. The mission download phenomenon indicates that our creators aren't just providing genetic upgrades, they're actively collaborating with upgraded humans to solve the challenges that could prevent successful species transcendence. We're becoming partners in our own transformation, rather than passive recipients of evolutionary modifications. But this partnership comes with responsibilities that many upgraded individuals find overwhelming. The mission downloads often include information about global challenges and potential solutions that require coordinated action across multiple resonance clusters. The scope of the project suggests that our creators expect upgraded humans to take active leadership in guiding species-wide transformation. Dr. Chen's latest research into the mission download phenomenon reveals that the instructions are becoming increasingly complex and urgent. Recent downloads focus on preparation for what the consciousness transmissions describe as convergence protocols, procedures for managing the transition when consciousness upgrades cascade across the entire human population. The convergence protocols include detailed plans for maintaining social stability during rapid consciousness expansion, methods for integrating enhanced individuals with non-upgraded populations, and most crucially, safeguards to prevent the transformation from triggering conflict between different human groups. These protocols suggest that our creators learned from experience about the dangers that accompany rapid consciousness evolution. The instructions emphasize the importance of compassion, patience, and inclusive approaches that ensure no one is left behind during the transformation process. But implementing the convergence protocols requires unprecedented cooperation between upgraded individuals, many of whom are still struggling to understand their own enhanced capabilities. The resonance clusters must evolve from informal support networks into coordinated action teams capable of managing a species-wide transformation. Dr. Foster's organizational psychology research indicates that this evolution is already beginning. Resonance clusters worldwide are developing more sophisticated communication networks, establishing coordination protocols, and taking on increasingly complex collaborative projects that prepare them for convergence leadership roles. The enhanced children play a crucial role in this development. Their natural comfort with expanded consciousness and intuitive understanding of quantum field dynamics makes them ideal bridges between upgraded adults and the broader human population. They seem designed to serve as consciousness ambassadors during the transition period. Recent observations of enhanced children reveal that they're developing capabilities that exceed even those of upgraded adults. Some demonstrate the ability to stabilize consciousness fields around groups of non-enhanced individuals, temporarily granting them access to expanded awareness without triggering the stress responses that often accompany rapid consciousness change. These stabilization abilities suggest that the enhanced children might serve as biological buffers during the cascade event, helping to smooth the transition for individuals who aren't naturally prepared for sudden consciousness expansion. Their presence could make the difference between a successful species-wide transformation and a chaotic collapse. But the children's abilities are still developing, and researchers aren't certain whether they'll reach full capacity before the cascade threshold arrives. Current developmental projections suggest that the oldest enhanced children will be in their early teens when the transformation begins, old enough to understand their role, but young enough that they'll still be learning to manage their capabilities. This timing creates both opportunities and risks. The children's natural adaptability and lack of rigid thinking patterns make them ideal for navigating rapid change, but their youth means they'll need substantial support from upgraded adults during the critical transition period. Dr. Williams's child development research emphasizes the importance of preparing enhanced children for their convergence roles while allowing them to maintain normal childhood experiences. The challenge is helping them understand their significance without overwhelming them with responsibility they're not emotionally ready to handle. Recent interviews with enhanced children reveal that many intuitively understand their future roles, despite having no formal education about consciousness expansion or species transformation. They speak naturally about helping others remember and making the change easier for everyone, suggesting that their mission awareness is built into their genetic programming. But the children also express concerns about the resistance they encounter from adults who aren't ready for consciousness expansion. They report feeling frustrated when they try to share their perspectives and are dismissed as having overactive imaginations or being influenced by fantasy media. This resistance highlights one of the major challenges facing the convergence process. Despite mounting evidence for consciousness expansion and genetic upgrades, large portions of the human population remain skeptical of these developments. Cultural, religious, and scientific institutions often actively discourage belief in enhanced human capabilities. Dr. Peterson's social resistance research indicates that this skepticism serves important protective functions during the preparation phase. It prevents premature mass awakening that could trigger social chaos before the infrastructure for managing consciousness expansion is fully developed. But the same protective skepticism could become problematic when the cascade threshold arrives. Individuals who are psychologically unprepared for consciousness expansion might experience severe disorientation or trauma when the upgrades activate across the entire population. The convergence protocols address this challenge by emphasizing gradual preparation strategies that introduce consciousness expansion concepts through familiar frameworks. Rather than directly challenging existing belief systems, the protocols recommend demonstrating enhanced capabilities through practical applications that provide obvious benefits. Environmental restoration projects, Community problem-solving initiatives and technological innovations developed by resonance clusters serve as proof-of-concept demonstrations that expanded consciousness produces tangible positive results. These demonstrations help normalize the idea of human enhancement while providing evidence that the changes are beneficial rather than threatening. Dr. Anderson's effectiveness research shows that this gradual approach is beginning to shift public perception of consciousness expansion from fringe phenomenon to legitimate area of scientific investigation. Mainstream researchers are increasingly willing to study enhanced individuals and acknowledge capabilities that were previously dismissed as impossible. But time is becoming a critical factor. The cascade threshold continues approaching whether or not adequate preparation is completed. Current projections suggest that we have less than 2 years to achieve sufficient public readiness for the consciousness expansion event. The urgency is driving increased activity among resonance clusters worldwide. Mission downloads are arriving with greater frequency and intensity, providing upgraded individuals with detailed action plans for accelerating the preparation process. The consciousness transmissions indicate that our creators are providing maximum support during this crucial period. Recent transmissions include specific instructions for identifying and developing potential resonance cluster leaders, techniques for accelerating consciousness expansion in receptive individuals, and most importantly, methods for maintaining social stability during the transition process. The stability protocols are particularly sophisticated, addressing everything from economic disruption management to conflict resolution between enhanced and non-enhanced populations. The level of detail suggests that our creators have extensive experience managing consciousness transitions in other species or civilizations. But the protocols also emphasize that successful transition depends ultimately on human choices rather than external intervention. Our creators can provide guidance and support, but they cannot force the transformation to succeed. The outcome depends on our willingness to embrace change and work together during the critical transition period. Dr. Rodriguez's latest consciousness field measurements indicate that we're entering the final acceleration phase before the cascade threshold. The quantum signatures associated with genetic echo activations are increasing exponentially, suggesting that the biological systems are preparing for species-wide activation. Individual upgraded humans report feeling increasing urgency to complete their mission assignments and prepare their communities for the coming transformation. Many describe a sense of time running out, as if some cosmic deadline is approaching that cannot be delayed or postponed. The enhanced children seem particularly affected by this acceleration. Parents report that their children are experiencing rapid developmental spurts, gaining new capabilities almost weekly. Some children have begun speaking about specific dates when the big change will happen, though these predictions vary, and researchers haven't identified a consistent timeline. But despite the uncertainty about exact timing, all indicators point toward an imminent transformation that will fundamentally alter human consciousness and civilization. The genetic echoes are awakening, the resonance clusters are organizing, the convergence protocols are being implemented, and the planetary consciousness infrastructure is approaching maximum operational capacity. We stand at the threshold of either fulfilling our species' greatest potential or witnessing its greatest failure. The tools for transcendence surround us, the guidance systems are operational, and the support networks are in place. The only remaining variable is our collective willingness to embrace the transformation that our creators have been preparing for millions of years. The consciousness upgrades aren't just individual enhancements, they're preparation for a species-wide evolutionary leap that will determine whether humanity graduates to join the cosmic community of evolved intelligences or remains trapped in the limitations that have defined our existence for millennia. The choice approaches rapidly, and with it, the ultimate test of whether we possess the wisdom and courage to become the beings our creators always intended us to be. The whisper of transcendence grows louder each day, calling us toward a destiny that awaits our conscious acceptance. In these final moments before the threshold, every human choice carries the weight of species destiny. The enhanced individuals and resonance clusters work tirelessly to prepare the way, but they cannot force anyone to walk the path. Each person must choose for themselves whether to embrace the transformation or resist it. The underground network pulses with anticipation, the consciousness fields intensify with possibility, and the genetic echoes sing with the promise of transcendence. Everything our creators embedded in human potential is reaching toward activation, waiting for our collective decision to step into the fullness of what we were always meant to become. The moment of choice draws near, and with it, the answer to the ultimate question: are we ready to remember who we truly are and reclaim our birthright as conscious co-creators in the infinite symphony of intelligence that spans the cosmos? The universe holds its breath, waiting for our response. Tonight, as you settle into the embrace of sleep, consider the extraordinary possibility we've explored together. The evidence stretches before us like stars in an infinite sky. Genetic anomalies that speak of artificial intervention, archaeological mysteries that whisper of forgotten superintelligence, consciousness expansions that echo across time itself. The genetic echoes are awakening in children born with capabilities that transcend our understanding. The underground networks pulse with ancient purpose, connecting sacred sites across continents in a web of consciousness amplification that predates our oldest civilizations. The quantum archaeological record reveals a planet sculpted by intelligences that mastered the fundamental forces of reality itself. We stand now at the convergence point, where all these threads weave together into a single undeniable truth. We are not accidents of evolution stumbling through an indifferent cosmos. We are the carefully crafted children of beings so advanced that their very existence challenges our concept of what intelligence can become. The biological monitoring systems embedded in every forest, every ocean, every wilderness continue their patient watch, gathering data on our development while providing the subtle guidance that has kept our planet habitable despite our destructive tendencies. The consciousness fields grow stronger each day, offering transformation to those ready to embrace their true nature. But the window for this awakening will not remain open indefinitely. Cosmic cycles beyond our comprehension are aligning to create this singular opportunity. The enhanced children look to us with eyes that remember what we have forgotten. The resonance clusters work tirelessly to prepare humanity for the greatest transformation in our species' history. The choice before us transcends individual preference or belief. It determines whether we fulfill the magnificent potential our creators embedded in our deepest nature, or whether we remain trapped in the limitations that have defined human existence for millennia. We are being offered the chance to join the cosmic community of evolved intelligences, but only if we prove worthy of the capabilities we're being given. The underground infrastructure stands ready to support our transcendence. The consciousness expansion opportunities accelerate around us. The timeline convergence approaches with mathematical certainty. Everything our creators invested in our development culminates in these precious moments of decision. As the quantum hum beneath reality grows stronger and the genetic programming continues its ancient unfoldment, we face the ultimate question of our existence. Will we answer the call to remember who we truly are? Will we step into the fullness of our engineered destiny? Will we embrace the transformation that has been millions of years in the making? The whisper of transcendence surrounds us now, patient yet urgent, ancient yet eternally present. In the silence between your heartbeats, in the space between your thoughts, the signal waits, ready to guide you home to yourself, ready to awaken the sleeping giant of human potential that has always lived within you. Our creators watch and wait, having given us everything necessary for transcendence. The final choice rests with us, as it always has. The only question remaining is whether we possess the courage to become the magnificent beings we were always meant to be. Sleep well, knowing that you carry within your very cells the seeds of transformation, the echoes of a cosmic symphony that began before time itself. Tomorrow brings us closer to the moment when humanity will either claim its birthright among the stars or remain forever earthbound by its own limitations. The choice is ours. The time is now. The universe awaits our answer.